Here we are. Thank you, guys. This is our final session of our Grave Matters series. You have persevered to the end, and you are to be commended. By your endurance, you will gain your souls, as we hear in the reading today. This has been, it's been a wonderful series on our end. I hope you guys have enjoyed the information and the way in which it's been presented and hearing from some different folks with different areas of expertise. So we're really glad to be able, again, to start this conversation as a parish and to help you as you want to have the different aspects of this conversation with us, with your family, with your own self. All of that we are here for. So we're very grateful for your attendance through this all. If you missed any of the sessions, they've been recorded, they're online. If you have friends in the parish or outside the parish who've missed any of the sessions and you think they might benefit from the information, we want this to be shared broadly. But today, our goal is to give ourselves a little bit of practice with these conversations. So we're going to ask you to be a little bit brave in a few minutes. I've come from the school of thought, you never ask anybody to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. So Francis and I are going to have a little bit of one of these conversations, which is based on some of the prompts in the handout that you have on your seat. This is called, aptly enough, the Conversation Project. This comes out of Boston and some healthcare folks up there, and they have really seen it as a mission to try to help folks have this conversation, again, either with themselves or with loved ones, so that they can fill out a lot of the information that we talked about in the last couple of weeks. So the hardest part, though, is actually getting that information and forcing yourself to have this conversation. So they have some prompts and some little tools that you can use if you look through here that will help you, hopefully, as you try to talk to your loved ones, whether it's your children about what your wishes are, or whether it's your parents about what their wishes are, or someone else in your life. So that's all. We're going to start with that. We'll talk for maybe 10 minutes or so, and so give you a sense of how this conversation might go. And then we're going to ask you to be brave enough to find a partner and try this out yourself for a few minutes. And it need not be your final answers to any of these things. But then we're going to get together and reflect a little bit about what that was like to have to actually put into words some of these deep feelings and see what was hard about it, what came easily, and then we'll wrap up with some final questions. And if you'd like to revisit anything from previous weeks, we can do that or continue on right here. Okay, so that's our plan for this morning. All right, so Francis, we're going to sit down. Okay. And you be you, I'll be me. But I won't pretend to be Jim or one of your children, but we're gonna go into play mode here. But just be able to answer honestly some of your answers to these questions, and you guys just watch, and at the end, please clap. That's all I ask. All right, Francis, you know that we've been talking about the end of life, about death. And as you so wonderfully reminded us, these really are conversations not just about death, but about life. And so, as we're having this conversation, I wonder if we could start with life, and then we'll talk about death. So I wonder, what does a good day look like for you?
A good day is coffee and chocolate.
Okay.
Time in God's lap, space I call God's lap at home.
Okay.
Connecting with friends or grandchildren. Listening, deep listening is important for me, so that marks a good day.
Okay.
Again, whether it's friends or grandchildren or a hot dog and a beer at a football game or a baseball game or just spending time with and connecting with. That's a good day.
Sounds like casual spending time with. Yeah, that's sort of not, sort of some open time for some just relaxed being in each other's presence, but also being in God's presence, I hear you saying.
Yep, time and connection are important for sure, and space in between. I don't like to have so many things jammed into a day that it's hard to take a breath and know where I am.
Yeah.
So, a good point of reference.
Yeah. So there's a certain amount of ability to connect with God or with other people that's important to a good day for you, as well as good food and drink, it sounds like. Okay, that's good. Stephen, can I ask you to just close those doors real quick, just because I think the kids are going to be coming inside in just a minute. So if it's not a good day, if it's a difficult time, who are the people you go to or turn to support you?
Well, I'm an extreme introvert,
Okay.
so I do a lot of internal processing before I share. But I think being in someone's presence that I trust, and not even having to have words for those darker or harder days, but for someone to be present with me, and in that is real important to me. And definitely friends and the church is very important in that.
Are there particular people that you trust?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Not many.
Not many. Okay, that's fair. Doesn't need to be many. Yeah.
Not many.
But there are some folks that you trust, and you know who those people are.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
My go-tos, yeah.
Your go-tos. Yes, your go-tos, your people. All right, so as you're starting to think now about some of these things that matter about life and the people that matter in that life, try finishing this sentence for me.
Okay.
What matters to me through the end of my life is
Being comfortable and being at peace.
being comfortable and being at peace. And what would make you comfortable? Being with and near those people you love? Or being aware of their presence with you?
Yes, and I think to close the loop with some of those things that have gnawed at me in the past, or to make some, have some closure with some that would be important to me, and that would be part of being comfortable and at peace.
No, that's a great point as well. It's not just a physical comfort and physical peace, but there's an emotional and relational component, a spiritual component. Those things that are left undone or perhaps unfinished. Yeah.
Unsaid. Uh-huh.
Yeah, unsaid. That's nice. Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to turn to the next page here and ask you a little bit. Imagine now with me for a moment that you are a patient. You're in a hospital for whatever reason. I'm going to give you a couple of questions here and just tell me sort of where you fall in between these ranges. So as a patient, if you were a patient, you'd like to know only the basics about your condition and your treatment, or all the details about your conditions and your treatment? Would you give yourself sort of, if 1 was only the basics and 5 was all the details, where would you put yourself on that continuum?
Well, first of all, I don't want to be a patient in the hospital.
You don't want? Okay. Go with me a little bit here, Francis. Yes, but if what you were, because it's not always up to us, but yes.
I'd like to know everything that's going on.
Everything.
If I'm cognitively able to, take it in.
So information is important to you.
Yeah.
So that sense of comfort and peace would actually be aided by having more information rather than less.
Yeah, I've always told our girls and our grandkids too, you got to know your choices before you make a choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could imagine there might be some people for whom whatever the medical situation is, having all the details would disturb or agitate. So I think, it's fair to say there may be people at different points on that continuum, but it's really helpful to know for you, information does yield that certain sense of comfort and peace. So I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so when there is a medical decision to be made, if there is a medical decision to be made, you'd like your healthcare team to do what they think is best, or you would like to have a say in every decision?
Oh, no, I'd like to have a say.
Okay, that's fair. That's honest. That's good. So you'd be informed, and you would like a voice in those conversations.
Yes.
So you wouldn't necessarily want people deciding for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fair. What are your concerns? So you joked, you said you don't want to be a patient. What are some of your concerns about medical treatments? Are you worried that you won't get enough care, or worried that you'll get too much care? Where do you fall on that?
I would definitely on the latter. I've
Okay.
seen it, and it's horrid. Yeah. Just because we can do something doesn't mean it's the best thing for me or anybody else. So I would definitely fall on that side of it.
Are there some things, are you clear in your own mind some of the things you would like done, but sort of, or is it sort of, levels of resuscitation or, keeping yourself alive in the hopes of getting better? I mean, are there some levels of intervention care that you would like to see done?
I think those are such gray areas, and I think that's why it's so hard to put down in black and white paper what we want or don't want. But again, that's if something happens and I'm not able to make those decisions for myself. They've already been made for me because of some emergency or whatever. I think my healthcare team knows what to do at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to be on life support for sure.
Right. But there are also interventional things that could, bring you back if you had a heart attack on the side of the road, that CPR or something like
Right.
that could be a resuscitation that would be helpful.
Yes.
And it's one of those tricky gray areas
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons we want people to start thinking about it,
Yeah.
because it does become,
How long do you wait?
how long do you wait and how much do you do?
Yeah.
All right, good. So if you're diagnosed with a serious illness that could shorten your life, again, imagining with me here, would you prefer to not know how quickly it's progressing or the prognosis of how long you have to live? Or would you hope to understand how quickly and the prognosis so that you would have what you have been given as a clear sort of drop-dead date, if you will?
No,
Yeah.
I'd rather know the drop dead.
You'd rather know. Okay. So ignorance would not be bliss necessarily. So someone tells you you've got stage 4, metastatic cancer across your whole body. You want to say, okay, give me my, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 3 years, and I'm going to use that time, as opposed to saying, I don't want to know, I'm going to take each day and just go for it. Yeah.
I want to know.
You want to know? Okay. So we're fair to learning. Francis wants a lot of information. Jim is taking notes over here. But no, this is good. This is, again, it's about knowing yourself as much as it is about knowing the situation. And not everybody's going to have the same, hopes and expectations or desires. Would you want, if you're ill and at the end of life, and you've talked about this a little bit, would you want to try every available treatment? So if there is an experimental treatment, if there's something that's perhaps, a clinical trial that you could get involved in, or would you not want to try treatments that might impact the quality of life in order to extend your life? And this is not necessarily like life support, but again, taking cancer as an example, very often one of the last-ditch efforts is to go into sort of unproven territory.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
That so depends on how I am going into it. If I'm
Sure.
if I've been sick for a couple of years and I'm pretty weak, and I don't know how, I really don't know how to make that decision today. 'Cause
Yeah.
right now I'd say, no, I really don't want to try all the extra bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting. Okay, that's helpful to know. But again, worth thinking about in the sense of needing us. We can set our plans,
yeah.
and then we live them,
Yeah.
and we find ourselves maybe in a different spot, which is entirely okay.
Yeah, change those.
It's okay, but you got to know what you're doing with that, which is good. All right, so tell me this.
Okay, that one's hard to answer.
It's hard to answer, but I think worth thinking about, because you're going to be presented, hopefully, because of the advances in medical science, with options and choices. And we want to have at least begun to think about them when we're healthy, so that we don't necessarily make decisions as a reaction to the situation that we find ourselves
Yeah, and
in.
I think the phrase that we use a lot is the burdens of the treatment versus the benefits of the
Burdens
treatment.
versus benefits.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
What's
Yeah.
it going to cost me and those I love and time taking me
Right.
to have said treatment, or, versus the benefit of what that might look like.
Especially, and I think that's right, and that's why we sort of start with a place of what does a good day look like? What does life look like? Because if the burdens are going to sap every opportunity for you to be surrounded by people you love, or present with the people that you care about, or able to eat and drink chocolate or beer or hot dogs or whatever it may be, that's when it starts to be, wait a minute, is that a burden or a benefit? Because medically, it's easy to say, well, this would benefit you, but actually, when you think about what does life look like, maybe it's too steep a cost. Yeah? Okay. All right, well, tell us this. Where would you prefer to be toward the end of your life?
At home.
If you could write the story, what would it look like?
At home, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely not in a hospital.
Yeah.
With a bunch of strangers. I'd much rather be at home, wherever home is at that point. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Want to be at home. And I think, what is it? Did you use the statistic in your presentation of the percentage of people who want to die at home is something off the charts, and the percent that actually do is very low? Which is not to say, let me just put a disclaimer, that one should forego medical treatment or somehow eschew their appointments or anything, which I'm joking about, but at the same time is serious. There are those who think, I don't want to know, so I'm not going to go in and get the test or follow through or do all that. And I just want to say, we're not promoting that. We're just saying that when it becomes clear that one is near the end of their life, most people would prefer to be at home. All right, so if you weren't able to speak for yourself, would you want people to follow all your wishes directly, or do what they think is best in the moment? How do you feel about that? We're in the continuum. I have a sense you might want them to follow your wishes. Yeah.
I trust them to do that.
Trust them to listen to me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She's been very clear about that.
That's good. That's right. I trust you very much to do what I say. Yeah, that's right.
I hear what you think.
Yeah. All right, well then say this. You said you trust a few people. How comfortable are you with having your medical information shared with other people?
Yes.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Within that group? Mm-hmm. And that group knows who they are, mm-hmm. and your care team will know who those people are. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. And this is maybe an easy one, but who knows? When I die, I want to be alone, or I want to be with other people?
I am a big believer that God determines that, not me. My whole family could be around me, and then the one moment they slip out, it's the time that God says it's time. So if my family wants to be there with me, yes.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going to let them determine that. But I don't want a lot of people around.
Okay, you don't want the big show. Yeah.
No, I don't want the big show for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd
Right.
like to go like Jim Sell did, okay? Just go to sleep and not wake up. But
One of the things we learn in this work is, I think there are pros and cons to every way that this goes. The pros for how Jim went were that for him it was very easy. And Ellen said something really beautiful. I think she wouldn't mind me sharing on the morning after when I was visiting with her. Even then, she could see, she said, I'm just glad that even though it's harder for us, it was easier for him, which I thought was a very generous statement to be able to make in that moment. But it does leave a sort of a rupture when it happens quick like that. It's like a break.
yeah.
And that has its own recuperation time, and it's, like a bone, you need certain things to heal. Others have a long, slow decline where you can make your peace and say your goodbyes over and over and over again, and it gets to be a little tedious almost, and then it's almost a relief when the person passes. And so it's the whole continuum of emotional sort of reactions to it is on the table for this situation.
Yeah.
All right, well, one more minute here.
Okay.
Let me see as I go back here. I'm going to get to the last
You're doing a great
page.
job,
Well,
Isaac.
thank you, Prentice. Thank you very much. All right, let's step out a little bit and say, I'm going to ask you to think, sort of step back from the conversation itself and think about having this conversation. When might be a good time for you to have this conversation, not just with your priest, but with the people you need to talk to? What would be the context, you think, you could imagine?
Not this.
Not this, yeah. This is not ideal.
People.
Yeah, but Frances is being very brave, and we thank her for that, yeah.
At home when everybody has time, because again, time is my love language. So don't rush. Don't look at your watch. Don't have to be somewhere in an hour. I need time and space, and that would be.
Would you set that time and space, or would you just wait for it to happen?
No. I would probably set it up because I would introduce it. This is really important to me.
Yeah.
And I want you to be present with me while I talk about this and think about this.
And what would be, I'm curious, what would be the reactions of, say, your daughters if you said that?
Oh, they're used to it.
They're used to it. Okay, well, that's good. I could imagine some people might say, like, oh, no, Mom, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not the response that you want. If you put out there that something's important to you to talk about.
And that may be an important way to frame it, rather than say, hey, we got to figure this out. Say, like, hey, my priest told me to think about this, so I'm just doing my homework. Whatever you need to do. Or say, this is important to me. And I know it's hard to talk about, but I think we need to spend a few minutes talking about it.
I need some time.
Yeah, we need some time, and we're going to set that time. We're going to, keep that time. That's good. Do you imagine that this would all be taken care of within one conversation?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I think it always evolves.
Yeah.
Because of those gray areas that are so hard
Right.
to think about even.
Yeah. So how might you encourage future conversation about it? Or I guess here's another question. Would you be willing not just to share your own, but to encourage them to be thinking and sharing their own thoughts about it as well?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Even if they are younger and, healthy and happy and
Yeah.
not thinking about these things.
For sure.
are you the kind of person who likes to plan these things or sort of set them out, say we'll meet in a month, or sort of let the flow, sort of get in the flow and see when the time comes? I know like this conversation itself, but as far as follow-up and check-up and sort of check-in, are you someone who schedules those things or likes to just let them happen?
Definitely, I would schedule the first one, I think.
Yeah.
To make sure that there was time and space for that.
Yeah.
And to be heard in that. And I think it would just bubble up kind
Yeah.
of naturally, like it's time again. So
Yeah.
maybe set another time. But yeah, I think, all right, let's not meet in a month, not have it all set out before it actually has time to kind of terminate and see.
Right. There's actually some importance to time.
Yeah.
It's not just we want to rush it, get it finished, and figure it out. It's we want to start the process of thinking about this and talking about this that may require some evolution over time. Yeah.
It's very honoring, right?
That's nice. That's a nice way to put it. Very
It's
honoring.
honoring to be with and listen to heavy
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, it's hard stuff, but
Yeah.
it's very honoring.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. And scene. Frances, thank you very much. Give Frances a round of applause. All right. So you all have some of these questions in front of you. You don't need to walk them through the same way I did necessarily, but I wonder if we might take, let's say, 10 minutes to try to start having this conversation and between a partner and yourself to see how this goes. And maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's someone else. I'm not going to dictate who you talk to, but just talk to someone. And let's get it flowing a little bit and see where it goes. And then we can set ourselves a little bit of a plan for how we're going to have this conversation. So let's take 10 minutes. Tell me, how was that? Good. What was good about it? Cathartic. Why do you say more, Kathy?
Because I don't talk about it often.
Yeah.
It kind of sort of opens the lock and allows that conversation to happen.
Nice. Good. Well, that is the hardest part is opening the lock. Yeah, Pat.
Tell me how you get your family to talk about it.
Well, that's a tricky question. I think Frances had a really good way of phrasing it to say, look, this is important to me. And ostensibly, your family cares about you and cares about things that are important to you. But yes, sometimes it's really hard, and it may take a couple of attempts to say, I want to talk about this. No, too busy. No,
Especially your children.
Well, I will tell you this. They should be having this conversation themselves, let alone you having it with them. But yes, some of what we're trying to do is empower you and give you some skills or talents. Pat, it may be even this. What if you were to hand them this thing and say, fill this out?
I think that's a great idea.
And say, fill this out, and then let's talk about it. So maybe it just removes the immediacy of some of these answers just enough for them to give them time and space to fill it out. Now, we can't force anybody to do anything, really, in life. So you can never force anybody to do this. You can handle your own affairs, and you can try. And so I guess what we're trying to do is give you some tools and some courage to go forth and try to have this conversation. Yeah.
What I did recently, I'm from New Hampshire.
Yes.
And I took a trip back. My son has a hard time talking about this because he's my only child. So I made up a ledger, if any of you would like that idea.
Okay.
And I handed it, because I thought I could be in an accident, it's a long drive.
Yeah.
And that opened it up a little bit.
Okay. And there's opportunities. I mean, it may be opportunities where someone does have a little bit of a health dip and they're in and out of the hospital and say, there's an occasion to say, gee, this has opened the door a little bit for us to talk about, because I say like I didn't realize or I didn't know. If they would have had to ask me, I didn't know what answers to give. And so tell me, did you want to be on life support if it came to that? Do you want to know about all the details of your treatment? Or are you someone who just, ignorance is bliss? Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Well, we've talked about it a lot with our kids, but my big thing is don't ever keep me on life support, I'll haunt you. and yet, I'm younger, right now, my health's really damn good. And
Good for you.
if I had like a heart attack now, yeah, maybe you could put me on life support for a couple days and see what happened, But a while from now, I might not feel that way. So there's some judgment in there too, and so I have to sort of say to my daughter, don't pull the plug quite yet.
Right. Just, you sort of fall and bang your head, and they're like, well, she didn't want any help, so sorry, Mom. Yeah.
You told me no.
Yeah, that's right. No, but it's true. It's true, Betsy. I mean, it is a tricky thing. We're dealing with a situation in the parish now where all of a sudden things have gotten to a point of not quite life support, but, life assistance. And all of a sudden, this happened within the matter of hours, minutes almost. And on the one hand, yes, absolutely, this person wants every chance at life. And on the other hand, she has made clear she doesn't want extenuating measures. But I can tell you from the family's perspective, it's not so clear whether what they're doing now is life extending, full court press, or whether it's just the course of treatment for what she's been going through. So this is a tricky space, and there's no doubt about that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I'd like to ask more about your ledger that you were writing about. Can you expand on that for us a little bit?
Well, the thing is, he won't talk about it. Like I said, he's an only child. And so I could have had an accident. So as I said, I made up the ledger and I started out the type of funeral that I wanted. And then I went in, I don't want him rumbling through the files and everything when he's grieving. So I made sure I told him where everything is because I have an annuity and I have several things. And that way, he'll just breeze into getting my money.
Well, that may be your opening, right? If you're really having trouble with the conversation, I'd like to talk with you about how I'm going to give you all my money. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Change the tone a little bit there, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
By doing this, and that's when you brought this in the first week, we're doing our loved ones a favor.
Yes.
By doing it. I have the worst case scenario where my mother passed away, and I have 5 siblings. They were all in New Jersey in the hospital with her, and then they're calling me, and the doctor's calling me in Virginia. What do we do?
Yeah.
My mother did not take care of this.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah, and I think I will say this, you are doing a favor to your loved ones, not just from your relationship with them, but with their relationship to each other. And I bet Stephen and Jim could tell you some stories about this becomes fractious for a family. And it really is the worst way to honor the loved one is just to tear the family apart. But there's already such emotional content involved in this that when you start working in money and medicine and legal stuff, people they lose their minds. I mean, you guys, won't put you on the spot now, but I mean, I see you nodding such that we could say, yeah, this is true. Okay, what else? How was this? So we got just 5 more minutes. But yeah, Frank.
Well, it's interesting because I'm flat-footed yesterday, and I'm out walking Cana to go and do his living, and I know that my next door neighbor has been terminally ill, and so he's out there, and the neighbor's wife runs by and lowers the window, and I asked, well, how are you? And she said, we're going to be withdrawing life support tomorrow. And it's like, I'm not a close personal friend. It's a casual neighbor.
Yeah.
You do all of the talking, but then there was the reality, and do I go back on the door today and intrude in what they're doing? Because she said he wanted to have time to do his goodbyes.
Yeah.
And so even when we do all of this, still when that moment comes, it's like, and you flat-footed.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think all we can do is, this is try to prepare ourselves, so even if we get knocked on our heels for a second by the situation, we have a little bit of recourse to recover. But yeah, it is the reality of this, and you guys have lived it more than many of you have. It is really hard, and it's not just go to plan. Yeah, Alan.
I think one of the biggest factors for us to think about is the degree of quality of life.
Yeah.
Which is that very first question.
Yes, exactly.
That's what they're asking you. What's your quality of life defined?
Such a big influencer in the whole decision process.
But it's also, it seems like such a squishy question, right, Francis? And so to say, to bring that into the conversation of the sort of the hard science of the medical components, you have to really kind of own it and claim it. I don't know if you have stories from that or from your work, but it must be hard.
Everything comes back to that.
You can, every decision, is this gonna offer me more quality of life? It's the benefits and the burdens thing. It all comes back to what that quality of life, how it is defined by you. And that will determine everything.
Yeah,
For
Karen.
me, that changes. I mean, I know my
Yeah.
dad is 91, and he's, I kind of slap in my face. I said, Dad, what, same kind of question. He says, I just want to be with my dog. And I'm like, what about me? And I says, but, he's like, it's not down. I guess it is.
Yeah.
It just reminds me, you need to revisit it periodically.
Yes.
Because,
That's a good point.
if I was 100, I might feel different than I do today.
Right. I'll be able to go hike and sailing and all that. Be like, no, I just want to, have some chocolate ice cream, right? Yeah, Betty.
I think that's a lot of respect too, we have to respect that.
My dad would probably want to be with his dog too.
He probably would, but, in hindsight, I would have done things differently when he passed. But like we were saying, things are fluid, everything is fluid. Even if I had my set, some of that is the way you're thinking too. But I have to think that, things might be different.
Yeah.
Like, and I think me being so strong-willed about what I'm thinking, it kind of scares my husband a little bit.
Okay. So there's a way that this information can be presented. It's not just how do we get the information, but how do we give the information such that it can be heard and then hopefully adhered to. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point, Betty. I appreciate that. It's this will not be the last time. I'll give you a forecast. I don't know when we'll do a series like this again, but we'll do it again. Because you may change, the situations may change, medicine will change. I mean, these things will continue to change. And it'll be good to be touching back in on this every once in a while. So with that, yeah.
One thing to add, Al and Betsy brought to my attention, and Kate Rudy and Miller have been working on this too. Write your own obituary.
Mm-hmm.
What a gift, right?
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Write your own obituary. And I have
And don't be shy. Put the good stuff in there. I mean, yeah, that's all right. Don't be shy about it. Yeah.
Age.
I have a funny story to share. My aunt, from whom I'm named, Frances Fain, put all of her important stuff in the freezer. So if you open the freezer at my house today, our house today, there it is, right there.
Wherever you can find it most easily.
Right.
That's funny.
There, so.
Well, thank you guys again for your time and attention on this. If there are conversations that spawn from this, if there are ways that Francis or myself or another member of the clergy can be helpful, please do reach out. Funeral planning, questions about the medical stuff, questions about the legal and financial. We may not have the answers, but we can help you get the answers that you need. So for you, we want to help you, and we also want to help you help your families and your loved ones through this. So thank you guys very much for this, and let's go. Yeah.